Accept a motion.
Next motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented, as outlined. Those in favor, say yes.
I have a question. Would it make more sense to do the presentations prior to the public hearing? I mean, it looks like we have it, but I guess.
We do.
They are. So the
Oh,
point one
the
is.
A is in the public hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, perfect.
So all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please say yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. It'll be the first time I use this, so everyone who's watching at home, don't think it's weird. I've never done that before. Okay, point 2, declaration of conflict of interest. Anyone like to declare or have anything to declare? This isn't where you declare bankruptcy. You're here for that. It's not declaration. Okay, none. Seeing none, move to the next one. Approval of the minutes for June 23rd, 2026.
A motion that we approve the minutes for June 23rd, 2026.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes for June 23rd, 2026. Those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Point 4, public meetings and public hearings. Turn the time over to Jeremy Lance.
And before I get into presentations regarding projects for discussion tonight, I would like to yield time to the city attorney for some sort of training and clarification.
Yeah, so my name is Dalton Snew and I'm the Tremont City Attorney. They've asked me to come and just talk about a few things and then participate in today's meeting. A few of the things I'd like to discuss is, you know your role, but we're going to talk a little bit about the role of the Planning Commission in the city, what you do and the important work that you do in advising the city council in land use decisions, right? That's the important work that you do. And truly, the city council relies deeply on you because you're able to dive in a little bit deeper into the land use applications and make a recommendation as to how the city should or should not proceed and with respect to a particular issue. And so I just want to talk about, or I guess impress upon you the important work that you do, and that the city council, by statute, must consider your input when a land use decision comes before them and making that decision. And the first thing that I'm going to just talk about is your role as an advisor to the city council. You're appointed by the city council to be an advisor to them on land use decisions. And so in a lot of ways, you're an extension of the city council in that you're advising in how they should proceed, how they should view applications. And in doing that, you are an outward-facing public body of the city council. And so in your role, we follow specific guidelines and rules with respect to how that works. For example, all your meetings are public open meetings. So you do all your deliberations in public so that the public can see what goes on. And so if needed, the city council, right, all of them aren't here today. So they might have a question on what was talked about in the city council in the planning commission meeting. If they so desire, they could go back and review those minutes, review those recordings, and see what was discussed in the planning commission to help inform them make a very good decision with respect to how the city should proceed on any application. So the first thing that I would say is that this isn't an open meeting and public meeting training, but deliberations should be open and public. So text messaging between planning commissioners while a meeting is proceeding is not an appropriate thing to do. You just talk openly about that, or any communication between planning commissioners that's not open in the meeting is not permitted. So you can't text each other while you're on the dais or talk about those things while you're deliberating. The other thing I'd like to talk about is in your deliberation to maintain decorum and respect for both the public and for your fellow commissioners. Right? You're volunteering your time to be here, and the public's here to express their views and wants, and everybody wants what's best in their view for what the city is. And so in your deliberations, to show the utmost respect to both your fellow commissioners and to the public, because you are, again, an extension of the city. You represent the city in your duties. And so, for example, if I get up and say my outlandish view from your perspective, and you roll your eyes at a citizen is not very thoughtful and respectful of what my perspective as a resident is, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. You may disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine. And that's an important part of politics or the work in government, right? And I think a lot of us see Washington politics, and it's not respectful at all. And when we bring Washington politics into local government, just like Washington, things stop when we can't be collaborative, when we can't be respectful. And so that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And ultimately, again, you're representing this, you're an outward-facing body representing the city. And so the city is striving to have the utmost respect of the citizens and of the people in the surrounding area. And when we have proper decorum and respect within our planning commission meetings, it's more productive and helpful for both the city and for you. And ultimately, lack of decorum could lead to their expulsion from the meeting. This includes members of the public, right? Members of the public also need to maintain certain decorum, and if they can't seem to do that, then expulsion from the meeting is appropriate, and criminal charges can be brought if somebody impedes the public meeting. And so, as the chair, you have the ability to say, hey, if you can't comport with the decorum of the planning commission, then you can be asked to be removed from the chamber, and the meeting can proceed. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. We'll do more in-depth training on Open Meetings Act another day. So we'll talk more about that. But for now, we just wanted to put a plug for respect and decorum and open dialogue and collaboration on the Planning Commission. And again, for various reasons, but again, the Planning Commission is an extension of the City Council, and I understand the City Council wants to have the best face forward possible to the citizens of Tremont. So, thank you.
All right.
Question. I'm gonna ask that question actually.
Yeah.
Say somebody's starting to get belligerent, how do we handle that?
Yeah, so the first thing you do, wait for my microphone here. The first thing you do is just instruct them to maintain the decorum and call the meeting back to order if somebody's being belligerent. But if they continue to disobey the orders of the chair, you just need to contact the police department and have them be removed from the chamber. I've seen that. I also am a criminal prosecutor for various cities that I represent, and it's a Class B misdemeanor. And I see those where somebody gets up and is yelling and is unable to. The meeting can't proceed as long as they're in the chamber, and they can be removed.
Okay.
By and large, if you instruct them to maintain decorum, people are able to, cooler heads prevail, and you'll be able to proceed. But ultimately, if it gets out of hand, then the police can be called and they can be escorted from the chamber.
Okay. That's my question.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, item 4A is the Cloverfields Phase 3 and 4 overlay. It is application number 26.018. The applicant, Mr. Keith Russell, is available in the audience tonight, Mr. Chair. And comes in conjunction as one of the two property owners, the other being Mr. Russell Thornley. The location is approximately at the termini of both 110 South and 900 West in the city. The date of the application is May 19 of 2026 and is identified by the parcel numbers in your packet tonight. The current zone for both properties is R110 currently. The general plan designation, which again to clarify, it comes from the future land use map of the 2023 integrated land use plan. The designation from that map is existing residential to remain. The acreage is 3.94 acres combined for both properties, and the request is for the adoption of the Cloverfields Phase 3 and 4 overlay. for approximately 25 homes, Mr. Chair. The plan, one thing back to general plan designation or future land use map amendment, it doesn't exactly specify on existing residential to remain besides just the phrase of that text. The request would allow for higher density in this area. We're in an interesting junction where the PUD overlay tool was repealed. The PUD overlay originally came as a successor to the single family residential transition overlay, SFRTO abbreviated in our code. That the SFRTO comes from chapter 1.16, which contains all of the city's adopted overlays. The SFRTO type or overlay type pertains to a particular development, the Envision Estates, that is currently being developed, or it's finished, or
That's not finished.
not finished, and currently being developed, and is applicable to chapters 1.16.235 through 1.16.255. In that code, it mentions that the SFRTO zone or overlay was meant to be duplicated at that time. Again, since the PUD overlay tool came approximately in 2024 to be the intended method to bring overlays forward. So we kind of just have tools kind of replacing each other in that manner. Where this applicant, and again, the date of the application was May 19 of 2026, prior to the PUD overlay code being revealed. So we're, the reason the PUD overlay is being mentioned tonight is that they didn't meet the minimum acreage to invoke chapter 1.33 previously repealed. And so this is a pretty peculiar situation where we're asking to bring an overlay, or the applicant is asking to bring an overlay into existence. And this would be contained eventually in chapter 1.16. Staff wanting to work with the applicant just saw this kind of between a rock and a hard place where, no, we haven't adopted an overlay like this in years. And again, the PUD overlay tool was repealed, so we're in a little bit of a limbo on what exactly to do with these overlay types. And so
You
we're
said
just
they didn't qualify because of acreage.
acreage.
Yeah, they wouldn't
So we
qualify
couldn't have
either.
suggested that to them.
It wouldn't have worked anyway.
So some questions for consideration amongst the council or the planning commission tonight. Is this request consistent with the purpose of the SFRTO overlay? Is it consistent with the city's zoning framework? Should the city establish a clearer process before approving additional overlay requests? Otherwise, Mr. Chair, I yield the remainder of my time. Thank you. If you'd like the applicant to speak, it would be a good time.
Presentation, discussion, yeah. Yeah, if the applicants want to make a few comments, that'd be great.
Guess we should probably invite both of them up, or both of the applicants, I guess.
Am I good to say he represents both our applications?
Probably.
You can do it in.
I'll look at him every once in a while.
Okay, we're good.
If he comes up, then you'll all know I didn't represent him properly. Keith Russell. Nice to see you again. I've been here a couple times. So the staff asked me to prepare a little narrative of what we're doing. I think I did submit that, and I believe you probably have that. So I don't want to maybe say things you already know. Maybe it's best for me to just ask if you have any questions. But I think in the findings from, even though it's a little bit of a unique situation, I think in the findings from the staff, I agree with what they've been saying. And one of the things that I've thought all along is that one of the reasons I approached this property with this kind of look is the overlay zone allows for the transition between just a regular sized lot and the R110 to become a little smaller and get a little higher density, but it does not step into the high density zone. And I think it's appropriate in this case because of the surrounding commercial zone in the area. So it kind of transitions the commercial zone to a little bit more dense residential zone. That wouldn't be a high dense zone, but maybe a low to medium density. And then the next zone, the R110, would be the low density or the medium density. It just depends on your definition of medium, what medium and low means. So we've been looking at this for quite a while, and I think one of the main things that the city wanted was the thoroughfare, the two stub roads to go away, and we worked to make that happen. So I don't know. I don't want to bore you with more things that you already know. I'm just willing to answer any questions if you have any.
So I guess the question, in my mind, they're proposing it as an overlay that's already allowed under the code. I thought at a previous meeting that the transition, I thought we narrowed down that was never really a zone. That was like a previous project.
It was, but after further reading the code, it says that it can be duplicated in it. And so then discussing it with Dalton, we decided to proceed to be able to duplicate it for this project.
Okay, so that's the underlying code we're using with the overlay, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hashed this thing out a lot.
Yeah, I think we have, and I'm fine. I mean, I've been fine with this one now. I love the fact that you guys work together. It made my little planning commission brain so happy.
And again, recognition of how much time and money on plans has been spent on this project so far. We just looked at the code, worked with the applicant, tried to find a way forward. This is what's brought forward.
So I have a question. What decision do we need to make today?
A recommendation to adopt the overlay.
Okay, so it's just adopting the overlay to be able to do this.
To present it to the city council, yeah.
To clarify, the plat drawings that came, was it the end of April or sometime in March, will go to the DRC for approval. Be approved
The
by
initial or the one with the adjusted?
No, this overlay, if approved, would set the framework where we could go use a plat with bonus density, take that to the DRC for approval. So it almost went cart before the horse. We're open to cart.
After the horse.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, thank you. Any other discussion?
I've got a question for Jeremy. On your general plan and zoning analysis, second paragraph, the last two lines, could you kind of explain that to me? Approval of property-specific overlay zoning outside the established mechanisms may create uncertainty regarding the predictability and consistency of future zoning decisions. What can you expand on that?
Do you want overlays to be adopted in this manner? Is the question. Do you want to set precedence?
So can I answer, Jeremy? The way that Tremont was adopting the PUD overlay made it so that we could standardize the zoning type so that there weren't individual overlays adopted. And so what we're doing right now is we're taking an overlay and adopting it without a standard mechanism such as the PC zone or the PUD overlay. And so it just, in a general planning principle, this is allowed, but it's just what the city wants to do standard. And that's what he's bringing out in the report. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay. Did that accurately reflect what you were needing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, seeing that, we'll move to, I'll accept a motion that we close the staff presentation and commission discussion, open the public hearing for 4A.
I'll make a motion to close the staff presentation and discussion and open the public hearing.
It's been moved and seconded that we close the staff presentation and commission discussion and open the public hearing. Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. at 5:50.
You like that too much.
Okay, public hearing for the Cloverfields Phase 3 and 4 overlay. You're welcome to come to the podium and state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
I'd like to motion that we close the public hearing.
And move and second that we close the public hearing. Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed? Motion passes. I'll just do an imaginary one, so I don't get like nervous.
Oh, you can do it. I said you were enjoying it, that's all.
It's here, I don't know, otherwise I would just keep going. Okay. So I'm assuming that's a motion for closing the public hearing and opening
Consideration of
consideration.
decision.
That, we'll say that that passes at 5:50. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tiffany. All right. Any other consideration?
I don't think I have any
Okay.
issues with this.
Though, let's see, I'll accept a motion that we send a recommendation to city council. Send a recommendation to city council on this.
I move that we move forward with the positive recommendation of the city council for the adoption of the Cloverfields Phase 3 and 4 overlay application number 26.018 based on the findings listed in the staff report dated July 28th, 2026.
It's been moved. Is there a second? And seconded that we recommend a motion for positive recommendation to the city council for this measure. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Got it.
Yes, good job. 5:52. All right, 4B.
Mr. Chair, item 4B on tonight's agenda is the Heritage Country PUD overlay. Application 26.017. The applicant is Brody Halder, who is in the audience tonight. Representing Harris Enterprises and LD Land Holdings. The project location is approximately northwest of the intersection of 6400 West and 10,000 North, and approximately southeast of the intersection of 6800 West and 10,000 North. So 2 separate and disjointed parcels identified in your meeting packet tonight. The zoning is as follows. For the southwestern parcel is R18, and for the northeastern parcel is R110. Hopefully for ease of discussion, and I wrote this in my report, that perhaps you could follow parcel A being the southwestern parcel and parcel B being northeast. I hope that helps the discussion and clarity tonight. The acreage combined is 73.67 acres. I should go back and mention the general plan designation is the single family residential designation, or in parentheses, low density. So the request is for adoption of the Heritage Country PUD overlay. Chapter 1.33, even though recently repealed, is being invoked tonight on account of the applicant having submitted their application on May 18, 2026, prior to the repeal of the chapter. So as outlined, it asks for a master plan, it asks for addendum plans, the open space plan, parking plan, it asks for elevations, architecture, sorts of things. So that those submittal requirements having been satisfied are included in the packet tonight, including a development agreement as well, going along with this one, and referencing 496 total units across 11 phases. The data is contained within the master plan, but I wanted to just break it down a little bit as follows. There are single-family lots. There are townhome lots featuring no garages. There are townhome lots which are alley-loaded, and townhomes which are front-loaded with garages. And the total breakdown between the southwestern parcel B is 202 units. The northeastern parcel B, I should have said parcel A before. southwestern and the northeastern parcel B features 294 total units, totaling the 496 aforementioned units. Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my presentation to Zach Watcott. I hope I pronounced your name right. He is the NPI South District Head, and has supplementary information from the discussion from the NPI meeting on July, was that 22nd last week? It was a Wednesday. So. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, thank you.
Evening, Zach Watcott, like you mentioned, representing the Tremont South District from the NPI initiative. So as part of the process through this, the neighborhood has been involved throughout the last year plus with different discussions between the builder and then the city trying to coordinate through all of this. The citizens of the area have concerns between the high density in the rural area on the outskirts of town. With the infrastructure, there's been historical concerns with the drainage and utilities being able to properly service that area historically. We recognize that there can be plans to try and mitigate that, but that doesn't mean that there's still a reasonable path forward. We feel like as citizens in the area, there won't be a significant impact to that area and its rural and agricultural applications within that larger area out there. It's been zoned at a level that we feel is appropriate. We understand there's going to be growth, and that the R18 and R110 allows for quarter acre plus size homes out there. And we feel that's reasonable for somebody wanting to come and develop in that area. When they get into the high density housing, it drives a significant amount of homes into a relatively small access area. Parcel B is limited on one side to the railroad tracks and other developments to the west side. So they all have to exit out to 1,000 north. The development on the parcel A, per the plat plan's been issued, that's the one to the southeast by Iowa Stream. There's only one exit out to Iowa Stream, and the rest of them also go out to 1,000 north. So at this 492 homes, you'll have 994, 92 cars, say 2 per household, coming out to that 1,000 north, back and forth on that on a daily basis. This area out there is not structured or facilitated to handle that, nor is it the intention of the citizens to have that kind of growth. We already have a lot of busy traffic on Iowa Stream, and we're going to be bringing in a lot more traffic. There's plans for a park within this development, which we do appreciate parks and open spaces. This park is located next to Iowa Stream and turns into Jeannie Stevens 2.0 with all the cars parking on the outside of the road because it's quick and easy to park out there next to the road, which is a busy road. Outside of any type of speed concerns out there, it still is a busy road with traffic coming down Iowa Stream. So the citizens would like to express their concerns with this and recommend that it's not something that citizens we want to see in that area as part of future growth for Tremont. We appreciate something that's more in line with the current zoning rather than this overlay. Back over to Jaron.
With a quick handoff to the applicant who has a presentation prepared, Mr. Brody Calder.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to let me present today. I didn't catch your name. What was your name? Zach. Zach. Sorry, I didn't meet you the other day. I was out of town. So, no, I appreciate the opportunity and I appreciate everybody coming tonight. First and foremost, I know we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of people probably know pretty well now, especially with the community and whatnot. And I live here in the community, so it's something that I hope to hear is this project's been one. It's been a lot of stress and worrisome on, and just trying to figure out how to make things work on it. With that said, I thought I'd take just a minute, just take a second to express where we've come from, why we're where we're at, and how this has come to be. And the reason I'm going to do that is just because we've had a lot of new faces come about. I've gone from the beginning of this project, from Sean Warnke, all the way to now Lindsay. And so it's, we've had different managers to different planning zoners that with and different council members as well that may have not heard and seen. And I know some of you have been in a lot of our meetings and know what's going on. We've got a couple here that may not have known what's going on. So I thought I'd just take a second just to break it down. And so back in end of 23, we purchased a piece of property, the northeast property that was discussed here tonight. And the current plans with the property were currently unzoned out in the county, and we were going to do a storage unit facility out there was our plans with this. We purchased the property, and in doing so, we didn't realize one of the key components from the county was that if your property was within a mile of the current city, then you had to request annexation. So we did. We requested annexation from with Sean, and I went down to one with Sean. And Sean said, hey, you know what, we really want your property. It's a part of our plan, but we do not want storage units. And so we really want you to come in and do this single family at the R110. And so him and I talked for quite at length. I said, well, hey, we've got a lot of infrastructure that's got to happen here. How do we make this work? And so we kind of came up with a game plan of, well, we could do the PUD, and you can come in here and throw some townhomes around along the side of the train tracks, and then single family over on the other side, maybe a park in the middle. So we talked through that. As we looked at it, the cost of infrastructure was just a little too much for us to handle to be able to make numbers pencil for us because of where the infrastructure is at. So as we decided as a team, we looked at it, and they needed a regional facility. And so we actually looked at purchasing another piece of property to make it so the numbers could pencil. And so in doing so, we purchased this other piece, the southeast piece, or southwest piece, sorry, the southwest piece, and trying to make numbers work. And so we came together, Sean left, and Bill Corbet was the new city manager at the time. And we sat down, we discussed, what we can do there. And that's when they said, hey, we need to annex this whole area. And this is all our future growth to go through all this. And so that's when Heartburn from Freedom Farms and everybody has all been involved for meetings on it. And we were asked, okay, well, this is what we need to do. And, I feel for them, and their situations that they're in. And so in regards to this, we looked at the plan, and they said, well, what dream zone would you want? And so we came in with the RM8 was what we requested at the annexation request. And at that annexation request, we had an annexation agreement that we had put in place and said, hey, we'll pay for all these things if you give us RM8. And so we went through this, we went through the whole thing, and everybody was there as well. And the citizens did not want RM8. And so we came back and said, hey, you know what, we'll go forward with R18. We can go forward with the PUD and work things out. So I think there may have been some misunderstandings of how all of that happens. And so when we talked to certain residents and some of the city council, we talked about, hey, we'll do townhomes right in front of the cement plant and single family behind it. And so this is kind of where we're coming up to today. So I just wanted to kind of give you a brief history of where things have been and how we're at. Now, when we did the whole annexation, parcels were zoned R1, R18, R110, R120, and so there was other zonings out there to make it so that you had denser areas out there and less dense areas out there. And so my parcels are the most dense two pieces, but in doing so, through our annexation, and I'll get into that into our presentation, that was to allow for a plan for the new annex properties to be able to have the services there. So that's kind of where we're at today to discuss the PUD, why we're coming asking for the PUD and to work with the city. And in all this, I just want to make a mention, before I jump in, that we're willing to work with the city and with the residents. we want to take feedback, and hopefully you understand that when we take the feedback in, we try to figure out ways to solve things. And so as I've met in our DRC meetings and gone through things, we've been willing to work with the city, and we're trying to make things work positive with everybody around. And so, oh, perfect, you pulled it up from here on top of it. Thank you so much. I kind of talked briefly about these items here. So what we're proposing here today is, they've mentioned there's 496 units, and there's 2 parks that are involved here. We're going to go through those here in great detail. Will you go to that next slide for me? Thank you. All right, so right here we have our Heritage Country Southwest property. So right here runs Iowa Stream, is running this way right here. And then this 10,000 North is right here, and you've got the cement plant right there. In discussions with the Parks and Rec and with the engineer, with Chris Breinholt, which has been great to work with, we identified this park here as the best place for a big regional park. So if you know Jenny Stevens Park, you're very aware of Jenny Stevens. This is almost identical to the same size as Jenny Stevens. They're in need of a park of sufficient sizes for future growth that's currently happening in the park to that capacity here. So when we talked to them, the biggest concern was parking. So we actually added on more parking here so that they could have that available in there. So you can kind of see that. And I think one of your requests talked about the parking. And so there are quite a few stalls here that have made it. We extended this out double from what was needed so that we had ample parking there. And so we wanted to pull it off. They did have concerns about Iowa Stream, which was a valid concern. And so we did talk about, potentially fencing this off here so that we could keep things in on that side there. And so the reason why this also came to this area was because of the slopage of the property and how everything kind of settles and slopes down this way. And so if you want to go to that next slide there. This parcel here is our northeast parcel. And as we kind of configured this one would have a couple playgrounds in it. The other one would have a playground as well. This is just more for, places where people can come and be together, and a couple of pavilions. But on this parcel, this one's really unique up in the right-hand corner here. And I know Christine's working through this, but there is a trail that's on this here, coming on this side, so it can connect through just past the railroad tracks and continue north to go into the city to be able to make it connecting through so that there's actually a good trailway. We do have here a trailway here that is open in the event that Freedom Farms would like to connect through to there. That's up to them, but we will leave that open space there, that there's a trail connectivity so they can come in and use the facilities there at the park too if they would like to pursue that. Any questions on, and just real quick on these housing types, we'll actually go down to that next slide. I'll go on this here. So currently, as our code allows, we could go up to 7.35 units per acre with the bonus density that we have. We're currently at 6.7 units. A lot of that is driven by, just as we've looked at the project, it just didn't make sense to push more density in there as we've looked at it. Currently, without the PUD overlay, we could have up to 360 units on the property. So there is a 134 unit differential with the PUD overlay versus what we can do right now with our current zonings that we have. Okay, so I just want people to understand that and know that is the differential there. And then one thing that I thought was, we get a lot of talk about this being high density, which in our area, I think we think it is high density, but in reality, this is still considered low density in the terms of developing. Sorry, just being frank. Considering anything under 8 units is considered low density. High density is considered anything over 12 units, and between 12 and 8 is considered medium density. So we just wanted to kind of help clarify why the PUD was there and why it's on these parcels with the R18 and R110. So you guys can see the reasoning as to probably why Bill Cavay or Jeff Sedal, they had, I don't know who all put it together, Sean at the time had kind of figured out these low density numbers. So go ahead and go down.
Sorry, I have a
And
question.
feel free to interrupt me anytime. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so, side note, according to our traffic like future classification, there could potentially be, that would be a major and minor arterial intersection at that Iowa String and whatever this is.
Yeah.
And we have on there for like a traffic circle. Is there enough room with your plan that if Iowa String gets,
So we had taken out quite a big chunk.
okay, so
And so
that
I
is
think
like,
our setback was, I can't remember how much it is, but we did take out a big chunk for this. If you
it
go
looked
back-
like it in the
go
corner,
back
I just
to
didn't know
this
if that
one
was
here.
like part of the
Yeah,
plan.
so we had slid this down and over, and you can see we've slid it back here where our corner is versus where the road is. But in the event that we look at it and we need to make more adjustments there, we're open to doing that.
I just didn't know if that was.
I do know
something
that
you guys
this,
looked
so
at.
when I talked to them, because this is the main corridor.
Yeah.
Coming in, and they wanted that to go a lot wider, and sorry, people are getting upset with this, but this plan is to push over into this side pretty heavily to make this happen for future. But that is the main corridor for the future growth.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great question. Okay, so when we did talk about those two parks there, the first one is the 9.83 acres, the other one's 3.67 acres. There are going to be a couple playgrounds in each one, and then there's pavilions in there for people who want to come use those facilities. And then the other one had 3 big fields for lacrosse. That's what the city had identified was their major need right now. They could use it with lacrosse and soccer, and so that was what they had requested. So if anybody wants to change this, talk to them, or open to whatever you guys want. Okay. All right. One thing that this PUD allows for in our proposal is that, as many of you are aware, and I was very keenly aware, a lot of us were probably sandbagging, having issues in 2017 when there were some major floods that happened here. Just things happened, and there was a lot of flooding that took place. And a lot of that drives from not being able to get the water up and out to the Mlad River and places to go. And so in doing so, when talking to Chris Reinhold, he was very adamant. He just said, hey, you know what? We could do retention on site, but I would prefer to have a detention to go to the Mlad. And we could grab all of the area around here. And, we're not just using the tile lines at this point. We're using a real line that's set, fixed, just to go out to the Mlad. And so there is a lot of infrastructure that has to go in here. And so this would allow for all of this whole area, the new annexed area would be shipping out all the way to the Mlad River. And so in the event that you have another 2017 event, hopefully we don't, but this would allow for that water to be retrieved and pushed to the Mlad River where it needs to go.
How, like, where would that be?
So it actually would go all the way down Iowa String to where the church is, and then shoot all the way to the Mlad.
And is that like pipes, like you're like,
We'll have,
not like a canal, but like?
it's a full-on pipe.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to figure, I'm like, are we putting a canal in, or what's the deal here?
No, we'll have to go under the canal, over the canal, go all the way down. We've talked to Chris, and my engineer has talked to Jim Flynn at Hanson's, and so he just retired, so I'm trying to figure that out now. But we're going all the way to the Mlad and going out there.
And you're paying for that?
That is a part of the development agreement. So all of this encumbers with this whole project. So this whole project is able to make this happen. Okay. So let's go down here to the, some of the members of Freedom Farms, not everyone, I know, but there are some that are having septic issues for, probably not this year, but years prior, when their water comes up. And so this allows for them to tie on to the sewer, and just for offers relief. I think there's 3 or 4 of them that have had issues. I don't know all of them. Some don't, some do. And so this allows for that to be able to help them.
If we bring sewer to those residents, do they have to connect in? Because if they're in the city limits, don't they have to be on sewer?
That is a question that's above my pay grade. You can ask Jeremy.
I would have to consult our code and look at that.
I don't think it's supposed to, if there's city water connection, you have to connect to it, but like, are we gonna require all of these residents to do that?
It's up to the council.
Sure. Go ahead.
You'll get a chance. You will. You're doing great. Thank you for your
Okay,
persistence.
so we can go down to the next one here. So this obviously allows for the new infrastructure allows for new growth to happen on the west side of the freeway where right now they're kind of handcuffed because of no abilities to, because they're annexed into an area, we're annexed into an area that doesn't have any services. And so we're going to talk through that here in just a second, but this allows for that to happen. We talked through the walking trail, how it happens there, and then 10,000 north, we are improving the whole 10,000 north. So that'll be redone up. That was a part of our agreement was in the development agreement, it talks about leaving Iowa String undone on our side and we'd improve the full 10,000 north and identify the costs and kind of figure out a solution. If we ever pay, and whatnot. So just making it so that it was fair to the city side. Remove the townhomes. I think we talked through that. You go to the next one there. Okay, this one here, I wanted to just take a couple minutes here and just kind of talk about this. This is a very key point as to why we prefer to go this route rather than going down the single family route of the bigger lots. And it is dealing with affordability. To be honest with you, we actually make more money if we actually go down the route of build a home, build a route. But that's not what's available to sell. As we're aware, we have a major issue with inflation that's happened and pay has not kept up with inflation. We're short. And with those issues, we are where we are with current housing challenges. And so we're trying to get into ballparks where we have 3 different townhome products that we put on here so that we can have 3 different abilities to help people get into a house and to be able to afford a home. And so we're hitting the no garage townhomes, but pricing at $230,000 to $265,000 range. And then you got the 2-car alley loaded that will bump up into that $280,000 to $310,000 range. And then the 2-car front loaded pushes that $310,000 to $330,000 range. And so that's the low end model of making affordability happen. Some of the things that the median household income, this is household income, is $84,000. So you gotta think a lot of people have 2 people working jobs, and that's the average household income that's in the county right now. And so to make people be able to afford and to be able to live where they, we don't want our kids all leaving town because they can't afford it here. We've got to be able to have places for them to live. The other portion is we'd have smaller single family lots, and these are priced in that $350,000 to $475,000 range. So it gives them an opportunity to actually get into a single family home. That next step up. So we're allowing for that to happen with this PUD. It allows for this to happen without ever stuck at those bigger price points. We're more like in the lines of $475,000 up to $575,000. And those are going to be really, they aren't moving. And it's because nobody can afford it right now. Many of you are in the real estate world. So I'll go to that next one. One of the things that I was really excited to see and to find out was there's a new House bill that's just passed, 492, that allows, if you have a PUD that is like such for the housing type that we're in need of, because there's over 100,000 people that are in need of these type of units right now. They are willing to have $100 million they just put aside that the cities can come in and they can actually grab those funds if they have a plan in place and they have a project in place to help with the infrastructure. So if the city is short, say i.e. sewer, which was in your packets today, which was a question about sewer. When we first started this project, we talked to Paul Holden. Paul actually sent me a report, said you're only using 60% capacity. You guys are going to be just fine. But then now, fast forward 2 years, and it doesn't look like those are the same things, right? So like we've had some maybe not misinformation, just unknowing information as we made decisions, and now we're kind of stuck saying, okay, how are we going to fix this? And so we're trying to find resolutions. We're willing to work with the city on however we can to figure out solutions to it so that, hey, we can have capacity here in the sewers. And, we take that risk coming in on this whole project with the sewer capacity because we can't even guarantee sewer until we call a building permit. So we go through all of this infrastructure and we're kind of at the mercy of hoping that there's sewer available. And so just in that regard, there is funding that is available there. We'll come down here. This one here. Oh, okay. So when we started this annexation, this key point here, I just wanted to share with you that the annexation was planning on us bringing and delivering these utilities. That was the plan for the city. If we don't do the PUD, then we're not bringing those utilities down for the area. And so that burden will then fall on the city. So just so you are aware, that burden will then fall on the city to figure out a solution to be able to bring the utilities down. And this is the state code that requires every city to maintain an annexation policy addressing how it will extend municipal services infrastructure into the areas it annexes. So unfortunately, the pre-annexation agreement didn't get signed because we didn't get the zoning. And so now we're kind of in this limbo state of, is our plan going to go forward, or is the city going to be responsible if we don't go forward with the PUD? So we just have to work something out, and we're here. We want to work it out with the city. I don't want to feel like pressure or anything there, but I just want you guys to know that we are here. We want to work with the city, and as the residents come forward, as they talk tonight, you know, if there's things that they want to address and talk through, we're more than happy to listen and try and figure out solutions to make everybody, to make things happen that'll be coincides for everybody here. And then I think we've gone through my items well enough, but those are the reasons why I feel like we should go forward and approve this. For the PUD. Any questions from you? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
Did you ever get consulting services from anybody that would have possibly been working for the city on the side?
No.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you. For that presentation. Anything else from Jeremy? Christine?
I do have a question for the developer, if that's okay. Like when is the detention, what phase is it going into? So that's something that I would like to know as we proceed forward. And I'd also like to know that the detail, to inform the commission that the details of the development agreement have not been all hashed out. And that's something that we will be working on as we move forward with this process. And I think that's all I have
So
right now.
with your concerns prior to, well, the reason that we repealed the PUD, but we're still dealing with the effects of having one, are those concerns that you had
The
still
PUD concerns
an
are
issue?
fine. We've
Okay.
worked through the PUD. They've done a good application of the PUD and we're going through on the right course. That's all in order. That's fine. It's the concerns of matching the development agreement with, like the specific, that's something that we're still working out with the developer and with our attorney and stuff. So I want the planning commission to know that the development agreement we have in our packet is not complete yet. That's just what I wanted to say.
And the staff report contains not only an initial review from planning staff, Christine and I. It also contains engineer, fire department, parks and rec, and it contains a few reviews. The city engineer did mention them. Public works. So it does contain their observations and the feelings on the item before we tonight. So hopefully the staff report represents a snapshot of this project at this point and all the iterations it's been through. Also, a lot of time spent on this one and money. We felt that without further ado, that this should come before the planning commission for a recommendation.
Okay.
We'll make a motion, we close the staff presentation. We open the public hearing. Open the public hearing.
It's been moved. What was that? And seconded. Been moved and seconded that we close the staff presentation and commission discussion and open the public hearing for Heritage Country PUD overlay. Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion passes. At 6:24 p.m. Right. Public hearing is open. You may come to the podium and we can hear your thoughts. Yes, please. You have 3 minutes. Please say your name.
I'm Cindy Shipley, and I have some questions about Iowa String. Since Procter & Gamble has come in, we've had so many big semis coming up that road. And my understanding is that those trucks are going to continue right up through that neighborhood. And I think it's up to the city to say maybe that's not a good idea to have the huge semis riding up right through the middle of all that. And if you're going to put a roundabout in there, trucks, big semis don't do well in roundabouts, do they? And so that's something for the city to really consider. If that's something you have a way to talk to the county about and change what's going on, it'd be lovely if the trucks could go somewhere else than up Iowa String if you're going to have all that housing in there. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jamie Crowther. I live on the Iowa String as well, and I appreciate your time. I just wanted just a couple talking points or thoughts. My request and ask is that you reject the PUD overlay as proposed and keep the designated zoning that it is right now, R1A and R110. I think it's important to give homebuyers options. So right now it seems to be this is higher density housing than what's in that area right now. According to the integrated land use plan, higher density housing makes more sense in the city. I can see you're adding a walking trail from his comments, but that walking trail, if you go down there, where's the ending point? It looks like the railroad tracks, a cement plant, irrigated field, or Iowa String. You know, it doesn't seem like there's really, it's kind of a distance from the city center. And why not give some home buyers options, like some bigger lots, like the, lots that are south of Eagle Dairy, east of JC's Diner. Those are bigger lots. And instead of having these PUD overlays with more intense, dense housing, let's give some people some options. I think that it's important to look at the city's observations, that there are concerns with fire access. This area lies south of the freeway. It's not the best location for higher density. My ask is that we keep that south of the freeway a more rural residential feel that matches the area. Keep the current occupancy as it is. The developer took a risk by buying unzoned county land when he bought it. And no matter what was said before any of the changes with previous city members, I think we can, they're under no obligation to, honor those. So my ask is, as a resident in that area, is to abandon or reject the PUD overlay and keep the current zoning as it is, the R1A and the R110. I appreciate your time, and as you vote, if it is in favor, I would ask maybe as a courtesy to us that are here, why do you vote in favor of that? But my request would be to reject it and keep the zoning as it is. And I appreciate your time. I know this is voluntary, and I really appreciate you listening. So thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Good evening. My name is Krista Sprakemeyer, and I also live on Iowa String. I just have a few thoughts I want to share with you tonight. Thank you for letting us speak and represent all of us in Fremont Farms and along Iowa String. I don't know how many of you have ever been down Iowa String in the morning or in the evening, but as others have commented, sometimes it's almost impossible to get out of our driveway, and it's downright scary. I personally have an 18-year-old son that scares me every morning when he tries to get out of my driveway. Adding additional vehicles down this road is only going to make that worse. Not to mention, how is it going to impact with our police, adding this many more citizens down there? When we moved down here, we chose this neighborhood for what it was and what it offered to our families. In changing this zoning, it kind of changes that whole area. It's no longer going to be welcoming for our horses, our cows, our pigs. Rapid growth outspaces city services, police, fire, staffing. We ask that you guys do deny this. And yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. Sorry, Brody.
Thank you, Kristen.
My name is Lane Wilding, and I don't live in this area, but I live up on the hill, and I do have a couple of concerns. I've looked at the staff report in attachment L, or several things that staff talks about that they say this current plan does not meet. And I've not heard any statements about proposal on how to meet it or how they're going to go forward to meet it until they come up with a plan on how to meet what the staff is saying they don't meet. I'm not sure how you can actually approve this until we come up with a plan on how we're going to do that. Another concern I have would be the property values. If you look at the legislative guide, it talks about item 1K, that it will protect the property values. As you increase the density in the area, I'm not sure that that's going to increase the property value for the current homeowners. It might cause a bit of a challenge and might reduce their property values. And so I think you need to consider that being that that's part of the outline here as to what we're currently allowed. I would recommend you keep the current zoning and work with the developer and try to figure out a way to get the sewer and so on and make that happen. I know that the residents, I don't know if they'd be excited to exchange their property and stuff like that for increased parks and having the parks. I know that's what Tremont City wants, is the parks. But if the residents don't want the parks and are willing to forego the parks relative to keeping the density lower, they might be willing to do that. But we've not heard any discussion about the exchanges of what's being proposed versus what the residents want, and are they willing to give up those changes? So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ashley Anderson. I had no intention of commenting, so I'm not very prepared, but I guess I was wondering if I could seek more clarification on, because if there's going to be a roundabout at that intersection of Iowa String and that road, my home is right in front of that roundabout. So would I get an exit to go to my home and the neighbors? I also know that in that driveway, there is an older septic tank from my grandparents that built there before. So you may not have known about that either, but yes, I'm just concerned maybe about a roundabout right in front of my home. Can I ask clarification on that? Also, you had made the point of like, it was going to come over substantially into that area, and then you said sorry. So I'm just wondering how far over, like, what's the plan?
It's not me, but that's what the plan calls for. It's going to be a wider road, so I don't know what that looks like for you.
Wider road.
That's not him, that's the city plan.
That's
Roundabout
okay.
the city plan is what they want. That's not, yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if there's anyone that can speak to that here
It's
tonight.
not even what we want, it just is what is projected for the future. That's what's projected for the future in that area.
And this is more of a comment collection period that can be addressed later on.
Yeah, we can talk about that as a group and gather more information.
Okay, all right. Well, I would also like it to be, as is stated by my neighbors, we'd love it to be lower density and but we understand that there's growth. It's a great place to live. That would be my wish as a resident.
Thank you, Ashley. Hope you will excuse the formality of it. It is a good thing. We've been in some of the meetings where we don't have separation of the public comment with it just becomes everybody's talking and like, I have no idea what's going on. So appreciate your patience with the structure of the meeting.
I'm Max Messerly. I also live on Iowa String right next to the cement plant. So there's a cement plant on that corner with Iowa String and was it 10,000 North? There's also another trucking business on the other end, right where it looks like the plan is going to exit. So just it's a lot going on that road already. I know there's going to be improvements, but there is another business on the other end. So it's just something I'm concerned about with as is.
My name's Courtney Wood, and I guess I have a question as far as the infrastructure goes going into this development. In the annexation agreement or development agreement, is the developer responsible without reimbursement for the utilities? Or is the city reimbursing the developer for those utilities once they're in place and the city takes them over? In the case that they are reimbursing the developer once they're in place, really numbers become a moot point as far as making things pencil. And I guess I just want clarification if the city is actually, in the end, paying for all the improvements. It's not the developer doing that. It's something to consider. I know they say that they try and pencil it out, so to speak, but if the city's reimbursing for all those utilities, then that just becomes an avenue for excessive growth, I guess. So I would recommend denying the PUD, not solely on that, but on other things that have been stated also. So.
Thank you, Courtney.
Zach Walkup back here again. One thing that I wanted to kind of highlight is maybe the precedence with allowing the zoning in that area would establish for future developments out on the west side, southwest side of the town. This is just the start of the annexation zone that's planned for out there in that area. A lot of the future land use does say there's sections of industrial and low density, but what does the precedence set with having this development with that density established there? And then for reference kind of on some of that density is look at some of the other recent developments maybe in town with the Visionary across from the hospital. We're already seeing what kind of high density there's housing there with those lots. A lot of these lots that are here, I believe, are even smaller than what they have there. So it will be a very high dense area. I appreciate Brody laying out the math though for how many units per acre. That's great, but it doesn't really address what that is for those areas where they are closer together, those strips of townhomes, and for the access and out.
Thank you, Zach.
I motion that we close the public hearing for Heritage County PUD overlay and open the consideration decision process with the board deliberation, motion, and vote.
It's been moved that we close the public hearing and open consideration decision. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion passes. 6:39. Do you have to hear the gavel on the microphone? Just reach your hand. Okay.
I personally have a lot of issues that I feel like aren't being met in this situation that maybe we can discuss, and I have to say that I'm sad at the amount of money that has been put into this process already. I'm personally a little bit frustrated with what's happened previous because I feel like it could have saved a lot of money with the people that really don't see this going in. I don't think it meets what we're asking as far as so many of the things that the code is wanting. And I'm really worried about infrastructure costs that will be put on the city regardless of whether it's built in. So.
What else? What we got? What are the thoughts?
Well, I guess I have a bunch of questions. So correct me if I'm wrong, so the PUD is vested, correct? So he's vested on both properties on the PUD. It said in the report that one of the zones maybe was zoned and maybe it wasn't. How are we treating that exactly?
Yeah, the report was written more than a week ago, and we met with the applicant on Monday. We was able to clear that up. There's two separate annexations at two separate times that establish two separate zones. The R110 remains, and we can reflect the zoning map to show
Let me
that.
clarify that, Jeremy. We've got some
Sure.
clarification on
Okay.
that. We are still looking for the R110 zoning. It was presented to the planning commission and the planning commission deliberated and approved the first annexation for, to have R110 at the same time as it was annexed. When it was brought and deliberated at the city council, they did not discuss zoning in that meeting, and they annexed it without accepting the zoning. And so when we present this forward, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dalton, but when we present this to the city council, we would have to actually establish the base zoning and the PUD at the same time. It's two separate legislative items, but at the same time. So we would still take the recommendation from the planning commission that we gave and present it at the same time when we take it to the city council. And so that was just something we were trying to do as our due diligence. The way it came about is we have never had a zoning map on that. Jones and Associates have never given that as that partial zone. We just figured it was a clerical error. And as we were looking into that clerical error, we noticed that it was never deliberated and never passed by ordinance that there was a zone there. So it was annexed and then it wasn't assigned a zoning at annexation. So when we apply the PUD overlay, we would also apply the zoning at the same time. But the planning commission has already recommended that zoning, and that's the zoning we would present to the city council. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I'm just trying to get real clear. So the PUD is vested.
Yes.
The zoning annexations are complete. Right?
Right.
And technically, the application date was May 18th.
Okay.
So technically, he has, what, a year to complete the PUD ordinance? Isn't that based on what we do?
I don't know if we have a stipulation on that.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah.
No, if he gets the overlay, he gets the overlay.
We'll take the application as long as it takes to bring it forward. And so.
So there's no time limit, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Normally
there's a year from the application date, I'm just wondering.
I would have to check for code. That's usually subdivision when they have an application. As far as the PUD, it's not specified in the PUD overlay. There's a time limit on that application.
Entitlements are approved and adopted by ordinance. It's a
Okay.
short thing,
Yeah.
never to expire.
But so I guess based on that then, as far as the actual PUD, so really there's no question of whether we're approving the PUD or not, because if he's vested, we can't deny him if he meets the code.
No, the
correct?
PUD is a separate legislative application, so you do have the ability to request to promote it for a proposal of approval or denial. So the PUD is a separate, in the code it says it's a separate legislative action that's applied to the underlying zoning. And so that it would still require a legislative decision to apply the PUD to the base zoning.
but that's just based on chapter 1.33, right? I mean, if he meets the code, then we have to approve it.
No, chapter 1.33 states that it is a legislative decision and that the council may or may not approve the application. It's in the first paragraph, so, or not the first, it's in the introduction. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, thanks.
Can I cite them?
Sure.
Okay, so according to the Tremont Transportation Master Plan from 2025, it does have on there that Tremont and the developer will have to pay for a roundabout if we put that in there. And since there isn't a lot of other developments going in right there, that roundabout, I mean, looking at it from if we get these extra 400 houses or whatever, it's going to increase the roadway there, right? We're going to need to make improvements to that roadway.
Currently, I've not seen any roundabout plans from our engineer, and the engineer is going to take based on what the needs are and the traffic study is, independent of what the master plan says. So I have not seen the roundabout in the plans for this development, but I will look into that.
So even if they're not in the plans for the development, Tremont would be responsible for that roadway improvements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if we're already going to be, I mean, if this developer is already planning on putting in a big pipe for the drainage and these other things, doesn't it make more sense to do that at the same time that you're doing roads? Like if you're doing sewer, we're getting sewer out there, why not improve the road now?
In the development agreement, they are actually not making improvements onto Iowa String. The improvements were all being made on 1000 North. And so I'm not sure where the roundabout fits into that, because that is one area that I haven't researched. I will have to look into that and see where that roundabout it goes. I'm imagining it's on the corner of 1000 North and Iowa String.
Yeah, and that's just based on like projected, but
so
that helps with
if that is the case, then we would have to write in the development agreement who is responsible for that, because the development agreement, from what I've read so far, the developer is forfeiting and not making any improvements on Iowa String because they are making all of the improvements on 1000 North. And so I don't know where that would fall on if they're doing a roundabout or not, but I haven't seen any plans for a roundabout.
But are people actually going to use it, Cozy? Or
That's the only way in and out of their houses. They have to.
But then where do they go? Like, do they go?
They have to go east or west.
Yeah, so like which way? Like that west road? I don't even know what the road is, but not Iowa String on the
Iowa
other
String
side.
is the west.
The east would be the
East, thank you, whatever that one is, by the railroad.
Yeah.
Like, is that road even, like, is Tremont after this going to have to spend money developing that road if the developer doesn't do it?
That would be up to the city. Yeah, the city would have to do that.
I think maybe my question as well, because Iowa String, like, where does ownership of roads begin and end when annexation occurs? Like, does it transfer hands from county to city?
That's at the development stage. They would exact their portion of the road that they have to dedicate to the city and make the improvements necessary.
On both sides of the road?
No, only on their side traditionally.
So the issue on Iowa String is when we annex it in, and we annex half of it. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Yeah.
But when we annex this in, this side of the road is only annexed half of the road. And so
the city only bought
can-
half the road?
Yeah, so in essence, that's the challenge we run into is that realistically.
That's
See, and that so
problematic.
sucks because on our
Yeah, because these other parcels.
plan, we have it, that we
Well,
would do it.
it might come straight down here, but the plan is to come over here further.
So that's not annexed yet?
That's not annexed yet, because there's other parcels that haven't been picked up. And at that time, the parcels didn't want to come in, so I'm just telling you where it's at, so.
No, you're fine. We just want to make sure that like we understand everything.
And then, so in exchange for it, we, to develop this off, they said, well, don't develop this off, we'd rather have you develop in front of here and over here.
So who maintains the road?
The city.
Or the county?
Once it's dedicated.
It's
If
in
they
the
only
city
have-
limits. That's in the city limits.
Only
Even
half?
Iowa String or 1000 North.
Iowa.
Iowa String will go to where, down here.
Part of the city.
That is something I'll have to ask. That's a good question.
But yeah, I mean,
County
these are great
road
questions.
maintenance or city maintenance?
Probably.
Because that will require county approval to do any work on that road. It will require a lot of different
That was not something I was aware of.
So while you're here, and you may not know, and they may not know, and we might have to look into this, you were talking about the new House bill that passed about getting us potential money for the affordable housing priorities. And, you know, my issue is with this kind of idea is that we think it's an idea and then nobody goes and gets it. And so you know, it's, I don't know if it would be on us to get it, or you would.
We can definitely help out, but it has to show a project that's going forward that can help. And then it would be infrastructural, so in essence, capacity for sewer capacity or water capacity, those fall in line. Saying, hey, we can't do this project without these things, improvements being made, and so then you can qualify for it.
Is that just for the
It's just for affordable
development, or is that for a long-term use?
I would have to look at it.
I also feel like that stuff usually takes years, if we're gonna be honest about that.
So, I mean, we've done, I mean, I sit on another board, we've done water board up in the Riverside area. But most of our funding comes in 3 months, what we've requested. But, you know, I'm not saying we did something different.
Once we, okay, good.
You've got to have a full packet to send in.
But that is something to look at. If Tree Mountain City is going to have to pay for those road improvements, because the developer doesn't own the road, that could be something that we look at of, well, if we get the funding from the state for this, then we could approve this for the PUD to be able to have those things. So the city isn't liable for it. So we're not approving the PUD and saying, oh yeah, we're gonna definitely do this. And then the city is liable for the rest when nothing else comes in.
Yeah, that,
Like the checklist of, if we get this, then we can get this.
yeah. I was just made aware of this, just this week, so I did not know of that funding option. So I haven't had time to research it yet.
And it does look like on the master plan, the roundabout at Iowa String and Rocket Road would be by 2034. So the other roundabout wouldn't be for a while, it would be after that. But that's kind of what they're looking at. But I just,
Part of Rocket Road and Iowa Stream, because there's 2 intersections of that street.
one of them, so that it's only one intersection.
No,
I don't
it's not
know.
gonna work like that, because that's,
I'll send
that's,
you a
you're separated by a
After the meeting, I'll send you a
freeway.
screenshot.
Because
I don't know.
that will be,
I don't know. I'm just saying that's the next part of it. But I just wouldn't want, if we put in all of these houses, to have to then make more improvements on the city end.
well, and I think the truth of it is, the reality of it is that they're all gonna happen when they can happen. Contractors and, yeah, yeah.
This is more like a 10-year, I mean, the reality is, and I talked to these guys about it, is this is not something that's happening overnight, because you have absorption, right? And we're not growing as fast as we can absorb these in. So there's absorption that happens here, and you have to look at all those, the timing and everything. So we anticipate this 10 to 15-year project. It's not a quick project. But the other portion, we are allowed to have up to 3 or 60 units where, this one is 486. And so we are willing to work with the residents in the city. But we feel like the PUD is the better option to be able to make it so it's more helpful for the whole area in the whole. So if we need to work some other arrangements out, we can. I just want to help you clarify that we feel like that's our best options. And in regards to, I think it was Mr. Wood, he had made some questions, and we're still working through what's going to be paid for by the developer and what's going to be helped out by the city. So we're still working through that developer agreement. We have not finalized anything yet on that. So just want to clarify those things.
When you say phases taking 10 to 15 years, would roads be first and then other
So
stuff?
it's just done at a phase at a time, right? And so that's what's in the development agreement that talks about like, hey, we'll start with this phase and we'll finish this portion.
Which phase would be first?
So it's on your map here.
Oh, sorry.
It's in red.
And it starts on that southwest parcel.
I didn't notice that part. Okay. I'm trying to do
Right,
it.
This one's right here by,
Since we've got Brody up there as part of the discussion, can I come up as part of the Tremont NPI South District to represent the citizens as part of this discussion?
That was what the NPI was.
you're welcome to, yeah, go ahead. Brody, you can, yeah, have a seat for a second. Go ahead, Zach.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, Well, just because I don't feel like it should be part of the conversation back there, and it's some of this discussion like getting.
Yeah. We'll have it recorded and.
Just want to make sure this, part of this discussion, I didn't feel like sitting in the audience, I was appropriate to speak up as part of this, so wanted to make sure that the citizens had a voice as well with the developer in this deliberation and discussions. For concerns about like the roundabout and transportation plan as to what if, it looks like somebody took just a copy and paste and did a roundabouts across the whole plan, it almost looks like, so there's plans out there in 2034 that's beyond kind of maturity, kind of what we're talking here. What is the impact of this on what's going to be in there today? Now, piece that made this an opportunity to develop it, but as we talked, there's the ownership situation there that needs to be resolved. Also, the impact fees or the costs. Brody fronts the cost, but is there also reimbursement through the impact fees? Is he really on the hook for it all? That's all supposed to be part of that development agreement work through. Understood, but it's not just him putting it up and not giving some type of reimbursement. So
yeah,
that's part of that discussion, I think.
Good discussion points. Quickly, who is on the development review committee?
Department heads, including Parks and Rec, Public Works, our contracted city engineer, planning staff, and the city administrator.
And the city council member is not.
No, it's an administrative body. It's the DRC's administrative body, but the development agreement will originate from the planning department office, and we will be seeking input from the department heads and be running it by Dalton, and then the developer will run it by their attorney and see if they like it, and then we present it as a package to the city council. Was that where your question was going?
Through after this meeting.
Yes.
So, okay, so we're still hashing out.
Yes.
For the city.
Yes.
Okay.
This is really important discussion.
Yeah.
And let's say a PUD is approved. Code is adopted in the overlay section of the Tremont City Code. And that guides forevermore this project and can be amended subsequently by legislative action, that sort of thing. But when this comes to plat, staff will have clear guidelines adopted by code and can review plats accordingly.
Adopted by code.
Correct. That's
So,
what's going to happen as a result
I think
of the overlay.
one of the things that's important to highlight is anything that does get put in reality has to follow through code. So if the code is flawed, that's what we need to address.
Sure, and that's where this differs from a standard rezone.
Right. And I'm not saying it, but just for everybody's understanding in the same room. Like if you don't like, I don't know, the road width of the situation, it's like then the current road that's there somewhere follows code. And that's part of the problem. So if that is a concern, then we should address that code before we do, I'm assuming what we're doing right here to fix those concerns. Is that correct? Because then it requires, upon adoption to this, then it requires a developer to follow that code. Right. So procedurally, the concerns that we have as a city, we should address in the code prior to adopting any overlays or any amendments or zoning.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because the issue is all these projects are so unique, we can't change the code. That's the whole purpose of the PUD and the overlay and the development agreement.
Sure.
So the vision is they come in and propose.
For every doorknob and every window, obviously.
Well, but this is
we're
like,
talking about infrastructure and city, we're supposed to maintain roads, like, or sidewalks or whatever.
Sure.
Then those are the codes that we need to either say goodbye or we need to widen it here. So like when it comes to the question about roundabouts on Iowa Stream, like that's what I'm saying. The county, like we have to, in my mind, procedurally, that's what I'm saying. And so I'm trying to make sense of how do we address issues while meeting needs.
just like she said earlier, we gotta update the development agreement to include all of the details in the development agreement that will follow the property even if he sells it. Because, so the way it works is as of May 18th, whatever the code was on that day is whatever the code is. Even if we changed it, it doesn't apply to him. Because
True.
May
It's
18th is
recognized
the
that
day.
they're
So, and that's where
striving
he's coming from, where it says, we're kind of hamstrung.
Not necessarily.
In a sense, with the code and all the things required, except in the cases where we demand from the development agreement that it changes.
And that's the whole purpose of the PUD, is basically to come in and say, okay, hey, we'll give you
Or
some
any overlay for that
flexibility.
matter.
Yeah, essentially, we'll give you flexibility, but we're demanding things in there that we can't demand of him otherwise.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, is if we don't approve the
Which
PUD.
includes the pipe, the drainage, the lift station, the parks. I
Oh,
mean,
it's way more intense than that.
yeah.
It even has like all the architectural standards and all the stuff in there that he has to make it look nicer than would otherwise be required, because we can't require him in a single family neighborhood to do that. And we can't require him to put in parks and put in all of this infrastructure either.
And you can't require anybody who just goes in and meets bare minimum zoning code to do anything. Like, because they can ask for a permit based on the R110 zone. They're not coming to a rezone meeting. They're not asking for anything different. They're just doing what's cut and dry. I mean, they could put siding on as an extreme example, they could put siding on an outhouse and we'd have to accept it if it met all the requirements, which obviously that doesn't meet requirements. But the point.
When it comes to infrastructure, the city can require what they need for that infrastructure. So if they need a sewer treatment, if they
Even
need
if the
sewer
zoning.
Yeah, they
isn't
have to
changing,
provide for their own, they have to provide the sidewalks, they have to provide the infrastructure for their development. So the lift station may not be a regional lift station. It might just be a lift station that is adequate for their development, but they would be required to pay for that. So if they need drainage for their development, then they are required to put in the size of pipe for their development, but the city can't extract from them a bigger pipe. So that's where
that where the reimbursable thing comes from?
That's where
if we require, if we say, hey, you're already putting in a 10 size pipe, let's put in a 12 size pipe, and we'll pay for that extra amount that you wouldn't have paid for.
Exactly, but as the council, I would like the commission to know also, that is the case, but if density is used as the bargaining chip, that shouldn't be used as the bargaining chip, because if the city's already reimbursing them for the upsize, and then that it doesn't matter what you zone it as, because the infrastructure will come either way. So that's kind of where the representation needs to be more heard, that if there's the reimbursement, then the reimbursement will happen whatever mechanism that the developer and then the city seems appropriate.
Are we even in the conversation when it comes to the reimbursement?
No.
Yeah,
That's part of it.
so it's addressed in the agreement,
It's
and the
addressed,
agreement
but-
specifically addresses your concern already too.
Yeah.
So the agreement says that he has to pay for everything related to his project, period. Roads, even his section of the lift station, and he'll be reimbursed for other like regional facility improvements that are larger, but he'll only be reimbursed with monies from his project impact fees, period. So essentially the city would never reimburse him if he doesn't build it out, because it has to be only reimbursed from impact fees from inside his project, period.
True, but the impact fees are also used for future development, and so our public works department has a desire. He's trying to get $11 million for our sewer treatment plant, which Bertie did bring up, so we have capacity for those residents. So if you take those impact fees and you reimburse them, you are taking away from the general fund to be able to update our sewer treatment plant. So there's going to be some negotiation that we have to work out with the current staff and the current status of our sewer treatment plant.
Well, we should correct that though, that he wouldn't take away any money, because the money would just never be created if development didn't happen. But the money, he wouldn't be taking away from the fund. The fund would still be there, it just wouldn't add to it. You following
If
me?
they don't build, then there's no impact fees getting
Yeah,
added to that.
correct, but if they build and the city collects the impact fees, then we would get those impact fees for it. So if he just builds to his standard and does an upside, then there's no need to reimburse.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, but it wouldn't take away from the fund, it just wouldn't add.
Yeah, that's true, I see what
You
you're
know what
coming
I'm
from.
saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I
it
see what you're
doesn't,
saying.
it's not gonna reduce, and in fact, the vision is all of these units are gonna continue to pay in to help be able to
But,
maintain it.
but if you do reimburse the impact fees, you're adding population and stress to the system without those impact fees going to the future upgrades to our current treatment plant.
Well,
what is the timeline of impact fees?
when you
At
pull
building
permit.
permits, when you
But,
pull.
right,
yeah.
but as far as, so you're saying that 6 years, the mayor, the mayor has said from the back row. So we're saying 6 years, that initial impact fee is meant to carry the load of maintenance for that.
You have to use the impact fee within 6 years.
Okay.
I think that's probably
Okay,
what he.
then that's not what I was
Yes,
asking.
yeah.
I'm
On the
saying then the
project.
amortization schedule,
Yes.
how long does that impact fee intend to sustain the maintenance of that particular thing?
I don't have the answer to
Because-
that.
It's a calculation based on.
It's impact fee study, really.
Yeah, you have to
That
do
they
impact
go
fees.
through. But I think.
But I'm saying is, it is important, because if we're saying that the whole project is 15 years long, then the initial impact fees that he's doing on the very first phase of the project, but they're also for that project. So it's not gonna you can't put the money from phase 1 over here to phase 11, because it's 10 years later. You're already operating in phase 1, so houses are sold, maintenance is happening. And so for that phase, are the fees enough, splicing hairs here, where we're talking about reimbursing portions of impact fees? Like, these numbers matter.
Well, that's why it would never matter, because he's paying for everything.
Upfront.
So that's the whole vision of this.
What is everything? For each
So-
phase at a time,
No,
or
he's paying for
in
everything
totality,
upfront.
it's all paid for?
Yes, he's paying for everything up front, unless we don't approve it. If we don't approve it, then the city is going to have to pay to get utilities to his project, to my understanding.
That's not what our engineer said.
That's what the state code says, actually, and that's why I pointed out here, it is on this section right here.
I'm pretty
State
sure-
Code 10.2.401.5 states that.
Because we're not,
You annexed our property
Yeah.
and now you're
that
required.
makes sense to me, because
law.
you're following the zone
How does that
requirements.
work with, we have areas of town where there's people that have been there for a while, are still on septic, but there's no opportunity for services for them.
And they can come after the city request.
But if they have septic, they're already
That's your
functioning.
liability. I'm just totally can't.
And that's the same issue out there, so that is something that I would like to deliberate more, and be able to find more clarity on that.
On what, which part?
On whether or not, what the time frame is for the city to actually get utilities out to the
They have to
residents.
do it, they have to have a plan and establish a plan within 5 years, and have to figure out how to go forward.
Within 5 years.
They have to decide, the plan has to be there and talk about what the 5-year plan is, and then I think they have a delivery period. I don't know the exact timeframe of when the delivery period has to happen, but they are required.
And I do know we do have a future annexation plan that probably should outline that. I have not delved into that, so I need to look at what our future annexation plan is, because all those details are contained in the future annexation plan.
But if you go back, so in my mind, I'm not sure if this is clear, but, so if Brody's putting in, how many units was it again?
496.
So he's putting in 496.
Over 15
Let's say
years,
the city
10
wants him
years.
to put in a sewer facility for 1,000 homes, right?
Okay.
He's got to pay for it all up front, and then he'll be reimbursed with those 496 impact fees until he's reimbursed. But the other 504 homes will still have to pay impact fees. I mean, the city is still going to get all that money eventually. It's just upfront reimbursing, and odds are they'll even get more money because of the projects that the city will have to pay for. They can increase the impact fee portion of the sewer portion to be able to reimburse on the 504 homes that eventually hook on when they do.
Is there one correction? I'm just asking, because we're saying he has to pay for his portion.
No, he has to pay for all of it.
Well, but assuming we're introducing a reimbursement, the part that's reimbursed is for the extra.
Yes.
Not for his.
Exactly.
So he's paying everything for, is this correct?
Yes.
So he's still paying for all of the impact fees that we, as citizens, would expect it to pay.
Wait, rephrase that.
For the portion of, we're going off of this philosophy here. this conversation where he's paying for a lift station that services 500 additional homes than what he's planning to build.
Okay.
Okay, that's where we started our mind game here.
And do you know what the numbers actually are?
I think it was like 1,400 ish.
Oh, okay.
Of the total units that could be out there with those zones that are out there.
Could have gone eventually.
But, and this is, we're still in negotiation if the city's gonna pay for it upfront or if they're gonna, that's, we still have not dove into the development agreement. So like, to say who's paying for what or when, it's really tough because we've actually not gone through this with the city.
Well, this
So
is
I'm just
good.
kind of sitting here saying, before we commit to one side or the other, it's just saying, hey, we're willing to work with the city and try to figure things out. But we have to know if, hey, is a PUD even an option?
Yeah.
And this is where we're at that today.
Yeah. And really what I'm trying to illustrate is an educational example for folks like me who haven't obviously understood this part about where impact fees are collected, where they're spent, and how it works in the example that we're talking about. If, for example, you are paying for a lift station that's going to service 1,000 people, but you are reimbursed only for the portion that is yet to be developed, that's the question.
Yes. That's what the agreement says.
And assuming this public meeting is recorded and we have this information, out there, that could be included in the development agreement regardless.
No, it's in the development agreement already. That's what I pulled it from.
I guess what I mean, because we said it wasn't signed though, right?
It's not signed, but it's
So that's-
proposed. The development agreement was attached to our thing. It's right
That's
here.
a development agreement draft. It's the-
Yes,
the
it's in the draft.
Yeah.
That's the way it's written in the draft.
Okay, perfect.
But it's actually more than that, because so the whole vision of this PUD vision was, we said, hey, we want to plan, because really the number of units is somewhat irrelevant, just because it's eventually going to develop out anyway. We can do it like Tremont style, where we put in 20 homes here and 30 homes there, and we don't get any parks, and we don't get any of these cool things that could be done on a grand scale. So the vision of the PUD is to say, hey, you've got a 73-acre piece, and he's going to dedicate 18% of that piece to parks, and then he's going to improve those parks, all with money developed from this project only. So that was the whole vision, so the city doesn't have to pay for any of this stuff. He's paying for all of it up front, all the infrastructure, all the parks, all the improvements to get there and to service the project, including the outfall line. It looks like you got a drain line going to the river, correct? So, I mean, ultimately, all of this is ultimately on him, and we're basically saying, hey, we'll give you a little bit of density if you provide a Jeannie Stevens Park plus the 3.5-acre park, which looked like it had some, I don't know what all was in it. But so, I mean, incredible things that if we put all that on the city, that's exactly why no parks have been built in 25 years.
But it's not the direction we really want the city to go with, how that fits within the master plan and that development in that area. Great, we're getting all the benefits from it.
Absolutely.
But is that fit out in that area? Because you set this precedent for those numbers. But it doesn't, because if you look at that long-term use plan, it's got an industrial section and then a bunch of low density on that.
It also has a road going straight through this developing area.
Yeah,
Future,
So
which I honestly.
I calculated, so the R18, which, is R18, is technically 5.44 units per acre. And essentially, he's averaging 6.73. So it's not like we're giving him, like River's Edge is 30 units per acre. I mean, this is 6.77. Aspen Ridges is 10. These generally on average, especially if you consider the 13.5 acres of parks, this is generally still lower overall than you might get in a traditional single-family residential environment. We're not that far off in the grand scheme of things. But the vision is
just another clarification question, because I find this to be important. When you say paying for everything up front, paying in chunks and phases.
Yeah, it's in phases, so certain things have to happen in phases
because you also have to sell and get revenues.
History, that's why everything
function.
was kind of done through phases, and I think the first part, which was the one part, I think was phase 6, is when that's put in.
Phase 7, what I read.
Sorry, I can't remember.
That was, I have a question as staff. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
as we're putting together the development agreement and going over the phases, that is a very important thing. It was brought up at the NPI meeting that the park would be used as a retention pond until they were able to phase and get that drainage in. And so that's something that I would like to know as we guide through this. What are the phases and the priorities that we need to put with that? Because there could be some concerns from residents that retention pond and putting in all those houses there, when is that coming in and when is it going to be a detention pond? And that's something.
Yeah, we have that retention pond in there, and that retention pond is actually big enough that it can facilitate the whole project in a whole. And when Chris Brightwell went through it with my engineer, so we discussed that whole thing being in there until we had enough people there to, in essence, put that infrastructure through.
So the phase, at what point will the park transition from a retention pond to a park?
The same phase when it goes to detention, so they all happen the same phase.
And what phase is that?
I believe you said 7.
That's what it said in the agreement, was 7 and 11. Technically, one park was 7, one park was 11.
Do you know which one? Okay.
Yeah, the bigger park is 7.
Phase 1 is on Iowa Street, where's that?
Yeah, we started with Southwest and East.
Yeah, Southwest, sorry.
Flows that way. So we started with the
Gotcha.
Keep it in the middle.
That makes sense. Okay.
Well, so I went through and like compared out, like, does he meet the PUD? He's got a 5-acre minimum. He's got mixed housing types. I mean, that's my favorite part of this, is this is not just one type. I mean, there's all sorts of types, all sorts of flavors, all sorts of affordability ranges. To my knowledge, the part in the report about the density higher in one project than the other, the chapter specifically addresses that can be averaged over the entire PUD. So that's irrelevant, in my mind, because I mean, he's doing one PUD and it's overlaid, and the density can go, so he can stack it, put more density here, so he has an 18-acre park, 13-acre park, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's doing a master plan, he's doing common architectural themes, he's got a single development entity, he's got no more than 6 units maximum, he's got 18% of his project is parks. The parking, I mean, in my opinion, I think he needs to add the quarter for the guest parking. Just looking at it, it looks like you're only 2 parking stalls per unit, and technically it's 2 1/4 for the code. So I would probably put that in the development agreement, just that it'd be 2 1/4, just so we have some visitor parking. Also, one note, I noticed in the development agreement, the parcel numbers are switched, like they're incorrectly written in the.
Is it the 001 and the 0016? Yeah, that was when the development agreement, is it the 001?
Both of the numbers are swapped.
001.
Yeah, the numbers are swapped in section, whatever it was I wrote down.
Oh, I see.
It's in the reimbursement section for the lift station. It has the parcel numbers in there, but they're incorrect. The landscaping and the streets, I mean, he's got a tree plan, he's got all that. Really, the only thing in my mind that we need to finalize, and I don't know how to do that here, but is we need to get the units, the types, the density, the parks, all that stuff in the development agreement, and get that development agreement approved to make sure, we're going to hold him to the parks. And if anything, I would recommend that we put a bond together for the parks at some point. So in the event he doesn't develop it, that we still get the park as a city. I guess is the vision, is like, that's the trigger in my mind, is like, if he bonds for the park up front, he's going to be vested to develop it out, because he has to pay for the park either way.
Can I jump in here? I think that's a good point. As you do your discussions, if there's anything you want in the development agreement, make sure that's known, so that we know that when we're putting together that development agreement. Like, I agree with Micah, like, well, what do we need in this development agreement? Let's make sure that's very clear here, so when staff and I start putting pen to paper, we have what you see needing to be in the development agreement. I mean, for example, the roundabout that was talked about earlier, well, if that's a concern that the commission has, then that we can try to address that in the development agreement and the impact fees. And it is kind of a negotiation, because, right, do you have them pay for an upgrade and collect that later? So kind of give a preference on where that needs to go too would be really helpful. At this point, I just want to jump in and see if there's any legal questions with respect to the PUD overlay and its application in this instance, and whether or not, if you have any legal questions on that.
I have a legal question about it. So the way that the report, the staff report is written implies that the general plan is a requirement per chapter 1.33, like it has to meet exact, like on the general plan. But when I read it, it says the general plan is an advisory, more of a direction, and the chapter 1.33 is the actual regulatory code. So my question is that true or not? Because the way the staff has framed the actual report is kind of like, you know, like it's more like they're basing all of these things on the general plan. The general plan is more of an advisory, not a strict regimen. Does that make sense?
So you're not bound by the general plan, but the general plan is there for a reason, right? So certainly the city council, on your recommendation, the city council can do what it wants. It can go with the general plan or it can go against the general plan. It's not bound by the general plan.
Why make a general plan?
Yeah, but I think as a general rule, trying to follow the general plan is good practice because that's why we have it. You know, when we're trying, I mean, the general plan is a vision of the city. Like, this is where we're going to put this. This is where we're going to put this to make it all cohesive. And when you don't follow the general plan, it throws a wrench in it. I mean, for example, infrastructure improvements are often tailored to what the general plan indicates. So if the general plan indicates high or higher density in a certain area, Public Works and others can plan in advance to say, okay, we're intending to have additional units over here, therefore we're going to need the Public Works infrastructure to comment with that, right? So I think as practicality, following the general plan is by far better because you can plan the city. But by no means are the city bound by the general plan because it is somewhat of an advisory or not. I wouldn't say
It's not legally.
It's not binding, right? You're not.
I think it specifically says it's advisory.
Well, yeah, and I guess when I say it's advisory in the sense of you don't have to do it, but to cause a cohesive plan, you follow the general plan. That's, I mean, I don't know who was here when you did the general plan, but those are extensive and a lot of work for planning commissions to do general plans. And so when you're considering items that run against the general plan, generally the planning commission is like, no way, because we put a lot of work into that, and that's how that looks. But you're not bound by it. And then
the general plan was what, 2002? I want to say.
That's
So none of us were here.
Yeah,
The general plan was put into place, and the general plan didn't know about interest rates or the park or any of these things that would be, you know, it didn't contemplate any of that.
And I know I've had conversations where it's like, well, it's time to update the general plan, but that's also, again, a huge undertaking.
I think they're working on it.
The land use plan that we took the staff report off of was done in 2023.
That's newer.
And so, not one's newer. So, and staff will always frame the reports to reflect the general plan. It's not, it's advisory only. We know that as staff.
And then basically to the second part of your question, the PUD is entirely discretionary to the city council. So the city council has discretion on whether or not to adopt the PUD overlay or not. And so in your role, you also have discretion to make the recommendation to approve or deny or approve with modifications based on what you determine in this meeting or subsequent meeting, however you say. But I guess I just want to say, for example, I don't know what you want to do, but if you say, let's approve it with conditions, that would be helpful, or with modifications, that would be helpful in negotiating the development agreement, particularly with infrastructure updates, parks, those types of things. And then we can go with it to the city council with.
Is it better for us to approve it with those things or to ask to come back with those changes before we approve it?
I would just say depending on the extent of the changes. So if it's like scrap the whole thing, we're starting from the beginning, I wouldn't recommend approving it with changes because you're going to just rewrite the book. Yeah. But if you're going to make slight or modest modifications to the application, which really those changes are again, recommendations to the city council, then you could go either way on that.
The planning commission has achieved its intended goal to really uncover every stone, discuss the necessary topics, have good discussion that staff couldn't have taken the time to come up with if we had 100 years to plan this. And so as a result of tonight's meeting, we have good feedback on what a development agreement maybe should entail, and then we've heard from both the planning commission and staff, and that'll be made known to the city council in our report to them. And so I would just recommend.
Well, I have a question. I still have a question.
I have a few more things to add to the list too.
Sorry. Adding to the list, I have more.
Infrastructure payment for citizens that are already there. Development agreement says that the city will be waiving them. I know that the city council was not in favor of that. So, well, let me retract that. I just would like to have direction on how you would want to have the infrastructure impact fees handled with the current residents.
Talking about like people with septic tanks getting hooked up.
So if I can give some light on that. So in the city council meeting, we discussed some of the bigger things where a lot of the people who were coming on didn't want to have to pay. There was I think $17,000 is your impact fee, the $17,000 impact fee. And in lieu of that, they're going to be able to sell their West Korean water share for roughly $35,000 to $40,000. So the going rate is. So they do net, if they were to pay it, they'd net it. But a lot of them didn't want to pay that impact fee. They felt that they'd already paid those fees in essence once, so why would they have to pay it again to the county side? And so they wanted that to be cleared. And so in discussions, we were back and forth, and we were trying to figure out a way to make it so that they wouldn't have to. And so before Jeff Siddall left, he recommended that, and so that's what we kind of gone with. But I mean, there could be other ways that could remedy those things, and that's what we can make it.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a moot point, because I mean, whether the city or the developer, I mean, you trade them. I mean, if they don't want to pay it, then trade them for their West Korean water share, which they don't need anymore.
Yeah, but that's real property. Now you're telling them they have to, so it's like selling, but it's their own real property. They've already paid the fees as part of their construction.
Oh, sure.
So that's their.
Yeah, but they're also getting the sewer that I mean, a lot of the septics are failing. I just showed a home over there recently, and that was the number one thing they said is we're going to get sewer, so don't worry about our septic system that's failing. So when the septic systems fail, it will be irrelevant whether they own a water share or not. It will be critical whether they hooked onto the sewer. And I think that's the whole purpose of why the city did what they did, and was another benefit we haven't talked about as far as Brody putting all this stuff in, because again, same problem, the city already annexed all of their property in with the promise that they would provide sewer to them. Which if they don't, I mean, they're gonna have to get it to them one way or the other. It'll just be on the city's dime instead of on Brody's dime.
Okay, well, wait, $34,000 for their shares.
Yeah, that's what they're going for. I think 34 to 40.
34.5 is I think what they're selling for right now.
Okay, $17,000 to hook the sewer up to their house.
And the water. That's for the impact.
So that's
fee.
like how much I would pay. Like if I already have a house there, I would have to pay $17,000, or I could sell my water share.
You get to sell your water share at that point. You don't get to because you're using West Korean water currently.
Yeah, so I could either hook up to septic and get that and pay that $17,000, right? Or
And
I
sell your
sell
34.
it.
So water is
You don't want
separate.
to sell your share though.
You can't sell the share unless you hook up.
Yeah. Yeah. But like,
Can't.
what happens to the rest of that money?
They keep
It's real property. It's part of, we deeded that share. It's our property.
So if they didn't want to
They didn't want to sell the
share,
share.
they wanted to keep it
can't get
and
hooked up.
hook up,
Then
but they would be out 17 grand.
Yeah.
Well, not only
So you
that,
could.
We,
You
in
could
the
find it.
agreement, it states that there is no fee. That's what it currently states in there. And so residents had wanted it so that they were saying, hey, we hook up, we get the full benefit of that, selling that share.
And there was a lot of discussions about the annexation and negotiations with it. There's a lot of history there that we probably don't have more than enough time to get into on that.
yeah,
history.
well, I think
So-
it's really, that's gonna be the city council decision. I'm not sure that that's really part of this conversation today in my mind, but
But it
some of
can be
the,
included. I mean, you're saying it's in the agreement.
It's in the agreement.
This
That's
is
what the
also where
city
we
did.
can modify that agreement.
true. Is the development agreement far enough along that you feel like we can make these additions to it, or do you gotta go and like?
I've already looked at it with my attorney, and we've gone through it all, and we set it, back in, that's where we're at right now, so.
Okay.
We're back and forth with the city, and then that's where we're at now. But the problem is, and I'm not trying to
we had a change of staff.
In the meantime.
And so I don't think Christine and Jeremy have their hands on what we already negotiated, and then it kind of,
We're getting there.
I just being
We're getting there.
candid.
They're doing
I just
a
wanted to
great
talk
job.
Thanks.
to them.
Well, some of the other things I wanted to put in there was specifically like, quantifying the park acreage, quantifying the lift station location, the easement associated, just because, we don't want to get to a point where, okay, we're required to do this, but we don't have the correct easements and the location of the septic, or the lift station. I also think we should put the 0.25 requirement for the guest parking for,
I have that written down already.
okay.
Yeah.
And then I also think we should review, I don't know what should happen, but probably need to have a traffic study tell us what safety, fire safety corrections need to be made. But in reading his thing, he kind of acted like he was talking about the train and a bunch of it, and I'm not sure that I really grasp how to fix it. And I'm not sure if it really needs to be fixed, because he does have multiple exits on multiple roads. But I just wanted to put in there to make sure if there was any corrections necessary to meet the code, that we put those in the agreement. And then the bond for the park, I think we should put those in there at some point. And what else did I have?
Bond in his name.
What?
Bond in his name.
Usually what they'll do is they'll do like a development loan or cash, either one, and then essentially put the money up saying, okay, we're gonna improve this thing, and then it's there to draw on if he fails or doesn't build it out in the time frame necessary.
Who pays it?
He does.
Okay.
The city gets to use it if they need to.
If they have to.
It's like an insurance, almost like an insurance policy. You pay it, and then if he fails to build the park, it pays out to the.
But that's the whole vision of this, is he's got to make sure that he's gonna build it, fast enough, and along with it, to be able to pay for all the infrastructure, the parks and everything that he's got, but that's why this thing, it's a big project, but if you cut any of those pieces out, he can't afford to do all the things that we're demanding of him, and the city can't afford to do it like we proposed either,
I'm not ready to vote on it.
Sorry, one more comment about your comment about the egress from the fire department there too. Previously you mentioned about averaging across the PUD overlay too. I think you also need to take into consideration one ingress and egress too then for the area. And if that's the case, you only have 3 exits for all those homes. So that'd be a part of that consideration for averaging out your ingress and egress as part of that fire evaluation is it really sufficient with that east-west road on both ends? Is it the railroad? Okay, maybe it's only 2. I don't know how that evaluation would go.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't think we're ready to decide. I think the traffic study, the traffic engineers, the professionals, they need to figure that out, but I'm not sure that it's paramount for this. He has at least 2, and if he has 3, fantastic, but he has 2, exits and entrances that I think meets the definition of the code.
So what about that road on the other side, on the east side?
As a railroad track.
Is that all owned by the city?
Yeah. That's a city road that goes up right there next to Jay
I
Stockton's
think
property.
it actually, I don't know if it is owned by the city, because I think that some of it is, but I don't think all of it is. I think that.
The county probably has the bottom section.
Right here in this county.
I think from
Annexation limits.
I think it's the annexation goes up to the railroad tracks is all. So that rest of that from I-15 south, which includes that, and the railroad tracks east, which includes that county road, is county. So that east road is.
But it'll eventually be the city.
No, because the annexation plan doesn't go further east. That is the end of the annexation plan.
We'd have to change our future annexation plan.
Yeah.
Which we will. I'm sure we're gonna annex those pieces in that are on the road right there. They're not gonna go into Elwood. Elwood doesn't even have any city services anywhere across the river.
There was some discussion with Elwood on that, and I'd have to check my notes to see if that's part of our future annexation plan that we're currently working on.
Mr. Chair, if there's no more legal questions, I will be conscious of the city's resources and head out. If there's no more.
Very well.
Thank you.
I also want to be conscious of the city's resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, those really lucrative resources that were being paid to.
Was there anything that's gonna be gained if we delay the vote? Because in my mind, I mean, we can put whatever stipulations we want now to put in the agreement.
Yeah, I would say you can make your recommendation either
Yeah.
way. That includes suggestions for staff to, suggestions for things to staff to look at.
And I would also like to thank the planning commission for the deliberation and the discussion and just bring it all back to the land use. We've had a good discussion on what could be happened. But also bring it back to the land use of this area. That's what you guys are supposed to be deciding, all the details that we discussed in the development agreement. Us as staff will look at that, and then it's your guys' job to deliberate. Does this fit what the city plans for this area?
I mean, honestly, I wish this was next to my house. I mean,
Well, yeah, because it would be closer to the city center.
Well, no, it's the park. It's
Well, that's
it's
what
the
I'm-
parks. Like my kids, there's not even a sidewalk to get to parks where I live. But I mean, eventually River's Edge is going to do their thing, but that park's pretty tiny compared to this, you know. But I think this is exactly what we were hoping would happen with the PUD, is that there would be huge things. And I think this gets built out and all those neighbors around there can utilize those facilities in the parks, and their values will go up because of the sewer and water infrastructure that's available for them to utilize. I mean, for me, I mean, if you're entertaining, I'd entertain a motion to approve it and recommend a positive recommendation to City Council with those requirements added to the development agreement. The traffic study, the total number of units quantified, the exact product types, I think we should quantify in the development agreement. The acreage for the park, I think the architectural standards are already in there. The lift station and the easement, the parking for the 0.25 for the guests, the safety for fire, and the bond for the parks.
If we do the parking 2.5, does that give him more bonus density?
No, it just gives them more parking.
Just checking.
He just needs to have,
It shrinks.
Yeah.
he's probably gonna have to
Because it-
lose some homes to fit it in, just because he's gotta add a quarter for every unit, so he's gotta add however many units that is. I mean, at least for the
Shrink density
multifamily
and
section.
the reduction of the dense units.
Yeah, probably be the town.
Because there's
The town.
there's a verbal play of words there. Yeah, but
Yeah.
shrinking density is also possible.
Well, he only needs
Make
it
more
for,
dense.
yeah, he only needs it for the townhomes. And I would say we cap the density at what his proposed is, that he can't go more than the proposed density of 496 or whatever it was. And, you know, and put all that in there, that he, you know, has to pay for it, that there was no reimbursement except for impact fees on his project. And
On his, on future.
there's no reimbursement unless his project creates impact fees to reimburse him for the improvements.
On future.
Which is what the agreement already says. The agreement already says that, so I don't think that's a new thing.
Well, I'm gonna. It's been moved, as stated, that we recommend to the city council Heritage Country PUD overlay with amendments.
Yeah, with all the things that I named off.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor? Say
Yes.
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 No.
No.
Those opposed say no.
Yeah. No.
The motion passes. And here's why on my end, because I know it's been asked. And this is something that I've been rolling around in my head for probably since May, or whenever it was first brought to us. I don't think it's the city's business to decide to influence a developer one way or another. And that's a private property owner, just like each of you. And I think the city would do well to, with care, approach their desires and their intents in the right timeline and under the right assumptions before they not expect, but anticipate actions from private citizens that they would hope happen. Does that make any sense? It's not, I don't think it's the purpose of government to influence a negotiation for private money. That's my take. And because of that, I think that it's almost a right for this developer to continue doing as they have been done, right, as they've asked, because of the assumption by us as a city given to them way back from the beginning. I don't think it's right that it happened, but because it did, I think this is a certain way to make that person whole. That's my, talking about risk, we can talk about risk and, city annexation actions and the force of government and how, where and when it starts and ends. But it goes back to the same concern with the septic tanks versus getting hooked up. I don't think they should not be able to force you to get rid of your water shares. That's my opinion. To get the pieces that they are saying you will get as an annexed person, that you didn't agree to be annexed, or whatever. I just think that this is a private transaction that I would apply to every private citizen equally. I think it's worth, that's my why.
Can I give my network?
Yeah.
This neighborhood is just like my parents' neighborhood in Smithfield. It's off of, by our main street that goes down Smithfield, and it's off that 600 or whatever. There's a massive park there, and they built this big visionary neighborhood, and it is amazing. My parents, my kids love it so much. There's so much diversity. My kids go to the park and meet friends that are at in my parents' neighborhood from townhouses and from other homes, and they just love it so much. And it feels like the right amount of density for that area. Just like in Smithfield, it's not in the city center, right? It's down a few blocks from the city center, but it's close enough that it gives people that sense of community, and it really is it's that whole community that gives you those different type of people that can be there with you, and you can have that kind of establish that kind of community within this development. So for me, that makes sense to me. And I think that having the park and having all those amenities and all that, it will just build more community in Tremont and bring more people that we want here. So that's my way.
What I don't want to have happen is what they're doing, what's going to happen if we don't do stuff like this. Because right now there's hundreds of people that are going to watch this, and there's hundreds of people that need a place to live and they can't find one. Fortunately, we all have places to live, but there's a bunch of people who don't. And I feel like we have to stand up and we have to allow the developers to create units that are cheap enough and small enough that people can afford to live, that our kids have a place to live. And unfortunately, like Idaho, they just had to land ban. They just changed, the legislature passed a code that requires every city over 10,000 to allow every residential acre in every city to be 1,400 square foot lots, which 1,400 square foot lots is 31 units to the acre. Entire Idaho just passed that, and that's what's going to happen in our state if we don't allow developers to pay for everything and put in these projects that have some affordability to them. It's going to be crammed down the city's throat, in my opinion. And then I think we're going to get the same thing, just without all the parks and all the bells and whistles and the things that we're trying to make him do, in my opinion. But.
And you're welcome for your no's if you want to. Vice no is requested the yes.
Yeah, what's your no? Tell us your no.
If you want, you don't have to.
Oh, I can. Once again, it all stems from the main plan. And until we, as a city, stick to a plan, and develop from that plan. We're just gonna have these things way out here and way out there, and you can build this thing way out down Iowa String, and the kids won't be able to walk to town. There's no sidewalks, they'll be walking in the roads, and that's what I get frustrated about this town. They build these islands, island out here and island out there. Your example's great, everything was right there, but this is gonna be way out there again, and it's limited roads. One road have railroad tracks on it, and Iowa String is, like you said, it's crazy busy. Semis running down that thing at 55 miles an hour, and it's just busy.
I think this is actually closer than the temple is in Smithfield to Main Street. That's my parents are just
Great.
trying
This is gonna be,
Sorry, I
this could be. an
Are you saying you're going to
I
predict?
am predicting that this would be a great spot for a temple, okay? Just saying.
Well, and I think the vision is like, if we don't allow some development, that will never happen.
I like the concept. I just wish it was in town. I just wish it was close in town, so people would get to, I mean, there's a lot of people. It's gonna be almost
Well, it's
500
annexed,
people.
so it is in
Well,
town.
there's 73.
You're right. But it's way out there in town.
Yeah, but where would you put it? There's not 73 acres available anywhere in town, period. I mean, show me a 73 acre piece. I wish there was.
I'm just, you asked why I said no.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that's what I
actually,
said.
and actually, to be honest, I agree with, I support a lot of these ideas. Like, I actually believe that Brody deserves to be able to do what he's, and like, I mean, a lot of these things that we're talking about, if we had been able to preemptively do some things, it would be really nice at this point. I'm not a solid yes, so I felt like I needed to be a no. But yes, I do wish it was in town. And that is, I mean, it's making two choices that are a difficult choice. It's
Yes or no?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate Mike, he gets into these details. I mean, it's a lot of things for you guys to take back and make sure that this happens right, especially the bond.
That reminds me.
That's
we get
important
notes-
to me.
I mean, I'm sure we did, but just so you don't have to go all the way through and listen to it again to get this, the county, road, and city situate, like,
That's on my
I
list.
really think that's gonna be important.
Check roads and county roads.
If there's a way that we can secure those for the city in some fashion, so that we can control that rather than be at the mercy of a timeline that we can never determine. So,
Well, I wish he would have spoke up, because we should have, and maybe we should give him that challenge, is to say, hey, let's find a way to get sidewalk to city, for the project,
I think
so.
the biggest thing is we're talking.
That was my biggest concern, is sidewalks in the town.
Yeah, let's find a way.
I mean, that's where that walking trail is right there, and they're trying to make that connection.
And maybe we can even put that on the application for the infrastructure, that would maybe be considered under the infrastructure requirements, I don't know, with the grant with the state.
Very helpful.
I make a motion to adjourn.
well, we're gonna do some public comments.
Oh, do we have public comments?
They don't want to do that.
Point five, so public comments, this is where, come back up, give us what you got.
So after your vote into the region there, I did want to make just one last point there with kind of the point of being outside of town or including the community. Where we have the freeway coming through there, it's a very distinct demarcation line within the town with a lot of everything centered on the north side. Now, piece with me, we need area to grow, right? At times when we're gonna have some plans there, but we already have islands. And I know, so my parents live in Lehigh. It's situated very much the same where Lehigh is split by I-15. The north side was very late in developing and almost came from American Fork back down to the freeway. We're trying to force this development across the freeway to go out. And I don't think that's, by trying to move this type of development and setting a precedent for this out that way is gonna really keep Tremont in the way that's kind of land use plan, everything like that is envisioned for those areas. However, I do appreciate your full respect. He is a landowner, and he deserves to do what he wants there as long as it follows code. But is it right for how we as a community want to develop that area? And I respectfully disagree with that decision, but I do appreciate you talking. Thank you.
I gotta run, I gotta get to the high school, we got another meeting.
Thank you. The chair excuses Micah.
I motion to, no,
Public comments.
oh,
Still.
unless I'm asking us. close them.
We're gonna close.
I was hoping to motion to close the public comments unless somebody
We're
really
gonna
wants to
give, we're
run
gonna give it
out.
a little longer, Stu.
Okay. You're right.
Bill Crowther. I live on the Iowa Stream, and I was in this meeting when this whole thing took place, whether it was gonna be annexed into the city or not. And I know this exact thing was what our concern was. That once it's annexed into the city, we lose control. And we were lied to by everyone sitting up here, not you guys, Roland, but city council. And it is just frustrating because it wouldn't have been annexed into the city, been still Bend County. So that's just been my frustration.
Jamie Crowther, and I have to disagree with your vote too, because I 100% agree with what you're saying. You know, south of the freeway, I don't know why we can't maintain that residential rail trail. You are getting pushed by a developer who's pushing this. Why wouldn't we want this? That is a developer's opinion, that is his. It's not respect, it's not what everybody else in that area. And they compare this to Smithville, this isn't Smithville. And I don't like it that when you can keep comparing things so that they're not even the same. Oh, my kid, that's not our situation, you know? And when you say, where is even that road? It's kind of frustrating when you're making a decision of this size to affect this many people and you don't know where all the roads and where they go. That's frustrating. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your comments and answering why you did that, but I do disagree with the decision. I feel like south of the freeway should be maintained the residential road fill. I agree with, you know, this is a great spot, but I do think it needs to be closer to the city center, and I 100% agree with what Ben Bringer says. And I just would hope that city council can maybe listen to voices of the people, you know, and put faith and trust back into, are you listening to what the people say and what they want, and not what a developer on the planning commission wants.
I just want to say that many families chose to live here because of the open space, the quiet streets, and the sense of community. Replacing those features with large density or medium density packed developments can permanently alter what makes our city unique and attractive.
Sorry, can you say your name?
Oh, my name's Krista Spreadcar.
Thank you. Kristen.
Appreciate you waiting. Lane Weldon. Again, I looked at the staff report, Appendix L. Had a whole lot of, do not recommend that we go forward until we get the questions answered. I have not seen any answers or heard any discussion here relative to the staff report and that Appendix L of that staff report, and this does not meet the requirements as addressed by the staff report. Maybe I have an obsolete staff report. This is the one I got last week. So just curious how we're going to address those. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brenda. I just have a few questions. We have a business of trucks and we park in our properties. What's going to happen with that and what's going to happen with the school buses? Because I have my baby girls, if you guys put sidewalk, the bus is not going to stop right there. So she's only 8, so my bus stop in my house. What are you guys going to do about that? And I have horses, animals, cows, chicken. What's going to happen with that? If you guys bring other people, what about the other people complaining of the smell or the stuff? That's my question. Sorry.
No, what was your name?
Brenda?
Brenda?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Would you like me to do it out loud?
Yeah, last call, any other public comments? Happy to hear it. Okay. It's been moved that we end public comments.
Second.
And seconded. Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed. Okay, motion passes at 7:55. Any staff questions, business?
We have one staff business item. I'll let Jeremy take over.
Sure, okay. Both the state statute and our own code require training for the planning commission, 1 hour on open meetings law, 3 hours on land use topics. So staff are formulating ways that we can help you meet the requirement.
1 hour on land use law.
For this year, perfect. And so there are really only 2 relevant conferences in the planning world. And one is upcoming. It's called the Utah Land Use Institute, abbreviated ULUI. I have been wanting to go to this one. It's headed by some really cool people. A hero of mine, Craig Call. He's a heavy hitter in the planning world. He heads this thing. It's his brainchild, really. So October 22nd and 23rd. So there's a full conference both days. There's generally one of the days they'll choose, and maybe it's like a few classes and a few segments generally together. And so we would recommend, and there are opportunities to fund planning commissioners.
We'll have to check with her.
We'll check the funding opportunities. Where's it at? This one's in Sandy. And so, yeah.
Expo Center?
That I don't know. I'll look really quickly. So anyway, the training's coming up. Save the date if you want to go. We want to try to enable planning commission training. So
what day?
Is
October 22nd.
22nd and 23rd.
So usually there's a day for public or city or citizen count, people like us, planning commissioners. Yeah, will you let us know which one
We'll look
that's
into that and see when that is.
And then there's the full
Not
conference.
both days, just one?
Well, if you were gonna pick a day, I mean, I went to one in Logan and it was mind-blowingly helpful.
The topic's generally designed to help you in your role, as well as there being broader topics to discuss.
But the broader topics are also really helpful because it gives you context.
We would find out what the schedule is and find out what is pertinent to you, and then we can discuss there. We just wanted to throw out the dates right now.
Cool.
Is the county one, what do they call that? Isn't it always in the fall?
There's one in the fall.
The county planning office is putting on, it's an event of some sort, and it's planning related, and it's going to be at the Utah State campus there in Brigham City. Save the date for that one. Why don't I just send an email?
I'll send an email.
That'd be perfect. Yeah, I thought.
Because that is coming up, and I believe I think it's September.
Oh, yeah, I think it's in September.
So
Okay, thank you.
that would also count for training as well.
That's all staff has.
Okay. Any other business for you guys? No? Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm happy to talk. Let me know.
I would like to motion that we adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes at 7:00.